Hello, everyone. Welcome to Powersights, a podcast by PowerView where we deep dive into the latest trends, challenges, and developments in the field of digital transformation, AI, digital commerce, and more. In this podcast, we bring expert guests from various industries to share their insights, experiences with these cutting edge technologies, and how they are impacting businesses and industries around the world. I am Deepak and I have Divyesh with me. And our today's guest is someone amazing who can give us mind blowing insights into the apparel industry's future. She's an award winning fashion designer, a top 100 Woman of the Future awardee, a founder of Rain magazine, and a passionate storyteller. She has achieved remarkable success in the apparel tech industry as a futurist and has been recognized for her exceptional work as a Web3 advisor. She recently won the Metaverse Champion Award. She also hosts podcasts like AI for Creators and Unleash Your Supernova, where she has interviewed various renowned personalities. So, without wasting a second more, let me welcome Nova Lorraine to Powersights podcast. Welcome, Nova.
Thank you for having me. I was like, oh, I love love the bio you read. You're gonna have to send me that copy.
We will. It took a lot of time for Divyesh to put this together, but I'm glad that you loved it. So, a very basic question to start with, Nova. Please tell us a bit about your background and how did you get into fashion and tech? What inspired you to get onto this journey?
Oh, so we want to go into my crypto origin story or my tech origin story. Okay, let's do this. So my background did not start with tech originally. From an academic standpoint, I was pursuing medicine. I was in a PhD program for clinical psychology and wanting to help teens and young adults. And I had a divine download. That's what I say, what I call it. And what came to me was I was going to help people through my love of fashion. So just to set the scene, I'm an immigrant from Jamaica. I was born there. I grew up in Connecticut, and I was in what I call cow country, very agricultural school, University of Connecticut. So I was not in Miami or downtown Manhattan, NYC or LA. Okay. So this idea of I was going to help people through my love of fashion, it had to be a divine download. I mean, outside of having super stylish parents, that was my exposure. And granted, though, like every day was a runway for me. Like that was always something that I loved to do was dress up. But so anyway, I pivoted to fashion. I finished up at my master's, went on to New York City to get my fashion design degree from the Fashion Institute of Technology. So here comes the tech. And shortly after graduating, I went into interiors and interior design and high-end real estate to move back to New York and launch my label, my made to order and couture label. And that earned me accolades by the Fashion Group International as a rising star for multiple years, an award for Best Haute Couture Designer of the Year, getting my designs featured in my favorite publication, Italian Vogue, Essence Magazine, seeing my designs on The View, grace the stage of Oprah. I mean, like these are dreams, right? Seeing like my designs on actresses in like really popular movies. But on the flip side though, all those highs had equal lows. You know, as a creative entrepreneur, this journey is a roller coaster ride. And so there were many days where I wanted to give up, and I'm so glad that I didn't. And it was 5 years into that journey that I had the aha moment of, oh, this is how I can help people. And it was the idea of Rain magazine. And Rain magazine from inception, for me, is a multimedia platform that focuses on the future of fashion, culture, and technology. And so for the last 15 plus years now, that's what we've been covering. And Rain has expanded into a podcast network, Pink Kangaroo, and that's Kangaroo with the U, where we have transformational content, which includes content that will help you grow in business and life, but then also emerging in new technologies as well. I've also authored a book, Unleash Your Supernova, that you mentioned, with the companion podcast, which has been an award nominated for a couple of times. Let's go. But it was Rain. But it
That's
was,
huge.
I have to, not having any like experience in podcasting and to be nominated for an award like 2 years in a row or, for at least a couple times was for me a great accomplishment because I really do love sharing knowledge and information. And I really have a passion for storytelling and hearing other people's stories and bringing that to the world, hence Rain and these podcasts that I do. And so because I was in the space of the future of, I encountered Bitcoin back in 2013 and wrote a story about it, tried to mine it, couldn't get my hands on the mining machines. But then in 2016, we saw what happened with Bitcoin, right? And so did a deep dive and said, you know what, I'm not going to miss this train twice. And found Ethereum amongst other technologies, other blockchain technologies. So decided to invest in Ethereum. And then in 2020, I like right at the turn of the year, January or so, decided to day trade crypto. So what did that mean? Well, that meant it was just play money. But for me, it was entering this new world of technology in a very insightful way where I had to learn and read about the tech and discover what is the utility of this? Is this something that's going to be around for a long time? Who are the partners with these companies, these new startups, and what are their long-term missions? And so for those that are in the space, white papers, which are the business plans for these technologies, was really my best friend at the time. And the more I read, the more I wanted to read, and the more I learned, the more I realized we were on a paradigm shift. And so it was for me a desire to now like tell the world, like get on the highest rooftop and say, guys, like the world's changing. Do you know this? The train's in the station. And so hence I produced a podcast called My Cryptocurrency Chronicles, that is now ranked in Apple Tech News, and super excited about that. And it was the first of many tech podcasts that I produced, but that was just the beginning of me turning my attention into what we call Web3. The future of these various technologies that are going to be and are continuing to become the foundational technology for our industries. And so here I am now. I mean, it started off with that hobby, I would say, and then has grown into shifting my advisory and consulting services into this space where I help onboard startups that are native Web3 companies, where I help traditional Web2 companies get into this space, building in the space, like from NFTs to Metaverse worlds to being a part of DAOs and managing work groups in DAOs. So you name it, I've touched it, and now AI. So for the last 10 months, I've been dabbling in AI. So that's my story. A little bit of a longer journey, but that's my tech origin story.
You pretty much got all the milestones which anybody would like to talk about or achieve. So I don't know where to start or where to stop, but that's pretty cool. That's so varied, so inspiring, and I wouldn't have guessed the medical background at all.
Yeah, but it's interesting because I bring psychology into everything I do, like from my fashion design to the storytelling. Because at the end of the day, even though this is technology or whatever industry we're in, there's still people behind everything, right? And so the more you understand the dynamics of how we think and what impacts us and what inspires our emotions, the more we can deliver value to who we're bringing those products and services to. And so I absolutely still love the field of psychology. And it's just, I'm happy I started there because I think it just gives me a little more deeper layer to what I do and why I do it.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I can imagine. And you spoke about so many things. So I am trying to see how I can limit. So Web3, AI, tech, and apparel. How do you see this coming together? And what are your thoughts on this? How can it change the way apparel industry is functioning right now?
Yeah, I love that question. And I will say, when I started, when I was tumbling down the rabbit hole of all things Web3, one of the things that inspired me was the connection between tokenization and couture. And of course, that was the space that I was in. And what I consider couture fashion is the fine art of fashion. So when you think about hand craftsmanship and, a lot of hours, sometimes hundreds, upwards to thousands of hours being put into one garment by multiple individuals, like just focusing their attention on creating these works of art. I was thinking, well, what if we can use blockchain as a way of preserving the stories and legacies of these talents and skills and the individuals behind the art? We know of Picasso, but what about the beater that's beating these gowns, or the embroiderer that are embroidering these laces, and their stories, and how generations of family members have been sustained by these crafts. And so that was something, but then also how you can create a whole new economy through tokenizing, valuable assets. And I see couture as a valuable asset. So that was my initial let me dive deeper. And that was my use case that kind of pulled me in, the magnet, beyond the trading of blockchain currencies. And so, as I explored that and NFTs and the storytelling you could do with digital art and how you can mint those, on the blockchain, not so much for tokenization, but for, storage of value, and then also to provide rewards and incentives. And it just expanded. And then you're looking at DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, and this new structure and formation of a company. And what does that mean when you are being governed and or inspired by the community and not necessarily just a board of advisors and then, the traditional C-suites? What does that mean, in terms of innovation and creativity? And then just continuing to expand outward vertically. But when we come back to fashion and we look at the different tools, and that's what I call them, right? Blockchain, a tool. AI, a tool. An immersive environment, powered or not by augmented reality or virtual reality tools for conversion and immersion, right? It's 3D, that's great, but it's still a tool of how you can create an experience. So when you look at these tools and then you overlay them with the fashion industry, then you look at it from a problem solving perspective, then it gets really exciting, right? So one of the areas that I was focused on, especially during the pandemic, was sustainability and circularity. And then, well, here is this issue we have, and everyone's upset about the waste. Well, what do we do about it? Are we going to sit around a circle and just complain about and count the tons of waste, or are we going to do something? And one of the areas of action was around textiles and alternative textiles. Another area of focus was around supply chain and how can you reduce waste and energy around supply chain. And then let's look at the output, the physical garments and the numbers of items that are being put out into the marketplace. Well, how do we reduce the waste, the numbers that are actually entering into landfills? And can blockchain affect that? And then can AI affect that? And can 3D environments enhance those tools so people want to use those tools more? And that's where it all comes together. And so that's just one area. That's just sustainability. We're not even talking about productivity, in terms of the workforce. We're not even touching on the output and design and the front end product that's touching the customer. May it be enhancing and creating efficiency from that standpoint, or better storytelling or experiences. But that's just one aspect. So if you just look at the silo of sustainability and you look at artificial intelligence and what it can do on the supply chain side, where you can use artificial intelligence to pinpoint tools and processes that are going to reduce the amount of power, electricity, that are going to reduce the amount of water that you're going to use, or can help identify manufacturers or factories that are producing more sustainably. And so an independent designer or a brand can look at, use this tool to say, oh, ABC factory has more sustainable practices. Let me use them. Or XYZ textile is going to last 5 years longer than this textile and stay out of the landfill for 5 more years. Let me use that. And so these are various ways that we can look at the technologies and how it can engage within the fashion industry itself.
So a pretty huge download of combining all the technologies together. So if I had to simplify it, and I am assuming a lot of industries, they would want to move into this direction where they could use AI or other tech to maybe streamline production, streamline productivity, streamline operations. And they definitely face a lot of challenges. So if you had to guide someone on a simpler journey on how to get this started, are there any easier use cases or a more relevant use case they could get started with?
I always advise companies, like when I sit in workshops with executive teams, or I'm speaking directly with the founder, is to educate themselves just on the basic terminology. And once you're aware of what's available to you, that takes away the fear and the reactive impulse, right? Because we'll see a news headline and say, oh, the Gucci Garden, or oh, Roblox is collab with Nike, or look what Minecraft has done with, Burberry. And then there's excitement, then there's fear, and then there's paralysis, and then nothing happens. And these are just examples to inspire the founder or the decision maker that you can use these tools in an inventive way. And it could be for PR marketing, or it can be, as you said, for productivity or for efficiency as it relates to product design. And so I say start with education, just basic awareness. You do not need to get a PhD, right, in these tools or these areas. Find an advisor to guide you that you trust, and or a resource, if it's a platform, if it's a book, if it's a blog, something that you can go to stay up to date, and then look at, well, what problems do we have right now? And which area, if we're going to break this into three, pieces, and we're going to say back end, middle, and then front end. Front end is the forward facing, the customer, and the middle is what's touching your employees. And then the back end is it's the development, the raw, the materials that you're needing to create the product, right? And so when you're looking at these three components, what problems exist right now? And what do you want to focus on? And then if you're deciding the back end, well, why? Why the back end versus the front end? And then when you look at the why, then you're going to say, oh, okay, well, I want to do this because I want to reduce this for this reason. Let's say it's waste. I want to reduce waste because it intimately ties into the story we're telling our customers, or we want to move forward and hit these goals. We want to have a 10% reduction in our carbon footprint in 3 years. So if we focus on the back end, that's what it's going to do. So this is where, or we see that we have a low employee morale because our employees are, feeling overworked. And so let's focus there, because if we increase employee morale, we're able to increase imagination and innovation, which will help create more solutions for the back end and help create better products for the front end, right? So it's looking at these three segments. What is the problem that exists right now? And maybe it's taking a survey, or it's something that was already known, and then saying, well, here's problem A. And now look at the basket of tools we have. We have the hammer, we have the screwdriver, we have the nuts and the bolts, or, the power drill. Which of these tools are going to more quickly help this problem? And so just let's look at blockchain and understanding you could capture data in a way that can't be changed. Well, how is that going to help you? Is that going to help you from the employee morale standpoint? Or maybe it's better on the back end. So, okay, well, let's choose blockchain. And we're going to work on our efficiency around sustainability, because that directly ties into the story that we want to tell in 2 or 3 years. And, oh, you know what? If we bring in AI, we're going to amplify the results of efficiency on the back end side. So let's also bring in this tool. So now we have the hammer, now we have the screwdriver. Okay, great. We've solved that. Oh, guess what? Our numbers have gone down in terms of sales. Can any of these tools help us increase sales? Oh, I've heard of this thing called NFTs. What's that? Well, let me learn about that. Oh, does that apply to us? Oh, yeah, that's something that we can do. We can generate a new revenue stream that doesn't increase waste, because it can be digital only. Well, let's look at it. Let's talk to an advisor about this, and let's find a partner that could allow us to create a strategy that makes sense with our brand story to add a digital revenue stream to increase our sales and make up that deficit. So that's just one example of how you can, from a bird's eye view, look at the three components within your organization, and then identify a problem, and then go to your toolbox and say, which of these will better address the problem right now?
Yeah, that was a great breakdown of how someone should approach it. And yeah, it makes things sound simpler when you break it down into, especially the front end, back end, and I forgot the third one which you mentioned.
The
Front
middle
end,
with the,
the
the
middle.
team,
Yeah,
operations.
yeah. So could you share an interesting, maybe a case study or an example where you did this and there was a particular impact or output that, or the desired output that you generated, any for our, to help us understand that better?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll use the House of Nova as an example. So the House of Nova was born last summer during a NASA Tech Accelerator program I did in partnership with the Virginia Tech Science and Research Park. And what we were challenged to do was a cohort of about 30 students. And what we were challenged to do as entrepreneurs was to come up with a solution that would incorporate NASA technology to help commercialize NASA technology. And I was the Lone Ranger focused on fashion as an apparel item. And how could I, use this advanced tech to do that? Initially, I was looking at the textile side of things and the innovations that have been made as it relates to textiles that have some really amazing properties. And then I decided to research the software side and say, well, what can I do on the software side? And what I saw was a really nice alignment with Web3 technologies and software that NASA had created around data. And so I decided to bring data art together with Web3 tools such as blockchain and AI to advance couture forward. And so what I do is I use AI to create concepts and ideas that can better tell the story that's in my head, that can inspire individuals to want to collect my designs in a digital way and be a part of the journey as I turn those digital designs into physical creations. And it's so bringing the consumer along a ride that's inspiring for them, because I use fashion as art, and art inspires and transforms. And then this art, the next thing is people want to touch it, right? When you have an image of your favorite, painter's work, you want to touch it. You want it to be in your presence. So the next question I get is this going to be in physical, And that's a great sign. And that's something that AI can do for other brands, is it can inspire your community to then ask for it to be made. And then, if they're asking for it, they want it, it's not going to end up in the landfill. You're not going to overproduce. They're going to want to keep it longer. So you're going to invest in higher quality materials so it can launder for longer periods of time than our current fast fashion items do. And so how I use it for the House of Nova is a form of ideation, concept development, and storytelling.
I guess that those three aspects that you mentioned, the middle, front end and back end, and plus this case study, these two can combine and can be released as a separate playbook for the business owner to understand how technology can be combined with your apparel business to make it grow, like to grow at a pace you can't even imagine. That's a perfect scenario for a playbook.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, one of the things that I'm working on is a workshop series around fashion and emerging tech, focusing on AI, because there's a lot of confusion, especially. I think that, being in the Web3 space and being a leader in the metaverse area and working with blockchain myself, there's also confusion there. When people ask, well, what is the metaverse? They will interchange the word metaverse with AI. They'll interchange the word metaverse with AR. And so there's a lot of confusion there. And I think that once we clarify the terminology where people can understand it, as you're saying, then they can better see the individual technologies and how they can apply them to those three silos, as you said. And so I feel that when we're able to break it down in a way where people can understand, how is this going to impact me? Why should I care? Right? That's the question. If you're a consumer, or if you're an employee, or if you're a decision maker, who cares? Right? Like, we're getting up every day, we're going to work, we're eating our breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we're getting dressed, life is good, and for those where not life isn't so good, how is this going to help me? So it's still the so what? And so if you're able to say, well, if you look at these three components, you may fit into one of these components. If I'm talking about the front end, you're either part of that front end or you're the consumer receiving the product. So now you could say, oh, this is how it can help me. If I'm using AI to create personalization, I'm going to get a product that better suits me. Oh, now I care. I want to listen more. I want to pay attention. If I'm the designer creating the product and I have a tool that can help me ideate in a quicker way and help expand my imagination so I give a better product to my customer, oh, now I care. Oh, well, I'm on the back end and I'm the engineer that's putting these, tools together, these machines together, and I'm maintaining these machines, or I'm advising the decision makers and stakeholders of the company on these machines. Oh, here's a solution that's going to allow me to do my job better and make my stakeholders happier. Oh, now I care. So I think, as I love how you said it creates the perfect playbook, because I agree. It's how do we, this is language, right? It's communication. And how do we simplify something that's super complex in a way where the third grader can understand it? Because if the third grader tells mommy to buy the orange juice, and mommy's buying the orange juice, right? And so if I can explain this to my friend, and my mother, and my sister, and my child, then you can get me to better use the information or use the tool.
Agreed. And I can't get over the fact which you just said that, people confuse AI with AR, VR with AR, and they just throw around terms which don't mean anything beyond a point, but you can't blame them. Unfortunately, that is where, you know, it's our responsibility to help them out that, yes, this is what it means. And you don't really have to, talk about try out those fancy use cases which are really great to hear. But like you said, how does this impact your front end? And that's you start one step at a time. Can my team create faster content? Can they shoot products faster? Or can they create designs faster without actually spending time, money, energy, or material to do that? That is going to make a huge impact in terms of productivity, as well as the sustainability part, where you don't waste resources just to try them out. And
right.
That will be a huge one.
Yeah, I agree. That just made me think also on the opposite side. So let's just say you understand these tools and what they can do, and you decide that your narrative is to not use the tools because you're going to stay slow and steady and hand done and handcrafted. And that's your story. And when 90% of the industry is doing the automated version, you are the few that's not. And those that are seeking that can find you. And so we're not saying everyone should jump into blockchain and everyone should use AI. But when you understand it, then you can say, well, how does this align with what I'm doing? Why should I care? And, and how do I do it in a way where I'm not compromising the integrity of my brand story? So if speed isn't compromising your integrity of what your brand story is, well, maybe don't use it for speed. Maybe use the tools for research. Maybe use it for sustainability, maybe use it for wellness and mindfulness for your employees, bring in some technologies or some gaming apps or things like that will increase the mindfulness, the happiness, the mental health of your employees. So when they're doing these slower tasks that's authentic to your brand, they're doing it in a happier state of mind, which means you're going to end up with a better product. And they may actually create more without compromising quality because they're optimized. So again, it's not that everyone needs to copycat what the other person's doing, but the understanding. That's why I say start with the education, get a sense of what these terms mean. And you don't have to go down the rabbit hole like we all did here on the podcast, but get a basic understanding, like the ABCs. So then you can communicate with your advisors and your agencies, your partners, your technical partners in a way that's going to more effectively address the problems that you want to increase by looking at those three silos that I mentioned.
Agreed. And the fact that, productivity, it also means you being mindful and a happier state. It just brought a thought to my mind. So for one of our apparel manufacturers, what we did was they used to upload huge amount of products to their online store, and the quality control was manual. And I can
Wow.
imagine how painful and how annoying that process must be. We kind of automated some of that because some part still remains manual, but at least if you upload all those products, you will get a data, or you may say a dashboard, which will tell you, out of 1,000, maybe 5 of your products lack this logo or are not in the right quality or they are blurred. At least you save maybe 90% of their efforts where they have to go through each process. Now they can happily concentrate on those 5 images, get things done faster. And, I can imagine being in a better mood if I had to do that. Right. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I personally believe that's one of the most underrated aspect of automation and AI, which people just talk about the productivity, but the mental satisfaction is something there is no way you can put an ROI on that.
I 100% agree. I mean, we're all humans. We bleed the same blood. We have the same emotions, and something that's boring is boring, right? If it's boring, it's boring. If it's boring to me, it's probably going to be, boring to you in terms of a menial task. And so if we can reduce the menial tasks where individuals are freed up to do something that's more enlightening, then yeah, they're going to be happier. So yeah, 100% agree.
So what are the other interesting things that you are working on right now? And since we have a huge amount of, apparel manufacturers and businesses who work with us, which you think would be really fascinating for them to learn right now? And
Yeah.
mind you, let me tell you, they are not in the space where we want them. They are just starting with all those texts. They may know what AI is, and thanks to Chat GPT, they might be fascinated by it. But they will still confuse AR and VR and AI and ML with each other. So
Yeah, no, that's a great question. A couple of things that I'm working on beyond the House of Nova and the fashion that I'm designing is a book that I'll be announcing very soon, where it captures the history of where we are right now, fashion in the digital age. And it will be a resource for company teams. It'll be a resource for students and educators where they can see not only a glimpse of the history of fashion, but where we are now and where we're going. And I think that's super important because I remember 2 decades ago, there was a book that was introduced into the market called The End of Fashion. I don't know if you remember that, but it was written by a business fashion journalist, Terry Agins. And what she was doing was really alerting us that we were on the cusp of this new paradigm called fast fashion. And that term didn't exist then, but that she was putting us on notice, like how we manufacture and produce and design is changing fundamentally. And this in exchange is going to disrupt the fashion industry. And that's what we've seen in the last 2 decades is a move from the slower fashion, higher quality, you're not getting everything in 24 hours and it's not going to be a new trend every 2 weeks. And into that space, which has put a lot of pressure on the industry to continue to keep up with the cookie monster, right? And so that's what she was alerting individuals, to. Now, if you were savvy enough 20 years ago, you would have been able to pick up on that and then position yourself accordingly. Did you want to go with this sort of movement of what we were seeing? Or did you want to, something like Patagonia say, this is how we're doing it? And we're going to put our flagpole on the ground and stand for quality and stand for, sustainability. And so what we want to do is use this book as a resource for individuals to say, oh, this is what's happening. And this is how I'm going to move forward. This is how I can take advantage of this digital age. So that's one project that I'm super excited about. And then again, we'll be announcing that in a couple of weeks. So just follow me on socials and, yeah, that's an exciting project. And for me, I'm passionate about education. So however I can deliver the information, maybe through interviews such as this on your show, where you're providing a wealth of knowledge to your community, or may it be through podcasts that I do or books that I write. Another project, as I mentioned earlier, is a workshop series, which will help decision makers, individuals that are in these corporate structures, understand the fundamentals of the tools that can help them in those silos on the front end and operations and on the back end, and then guide them and lead them to partners, such as your team, that can help them take those ideas forward to help them solve these solutions. Because understanding it is just the first step, and then you have to move forward to execute, right? And ideate and then execute. And so we want to help them on that beginning step of understanding. And so that workshop series we're going to be launching in a couple months as well. So those are two projects that I'm excited about, beyond the advising that I do with some really wonderful brands already, and helping to continue to further the access through knowledge in this new emerging tech space.
Yeah, that's amazing to know, and I'm sure we would be looking forward to it because, like you rightly said, education is a huge thing which all our all our customers and specifically the industry needs at this point of time. And it's not about their trade, it's about where the industry is moving at this point of time.
100%. Oh, and I almost forgot before we jump to the next question. I don't know why I forgot this, but another big project is a TV show that I'm working on. And so what I've been doing with Rain, being in the future of fashion, culture, and technology for these last 15 plus years, taking that concept to television and introducing the intersection of fashion, culture, and emerging technology to my audience, where they get to learn and discover along with me as a builder and creator in the space. And then they meet innovators as well that are building these solutions, that are using these emerging technologies, and they're introduced it in a way that will impact them, that they can understand it, and that will excite them. So that's something that's coming very, very soon. We'll be filming the pilot in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that announcement as well.
I was just going to ask you the name, but I'm assuming that you won't share that on the show.
Stay tuned. All these little nuggets.
Nice. Yeah, Devesh, you were going to ask something?
Being a fashion designer and a storyteller, you understand the value of personal touch. So while we talk about educating these people about the interaction of technology and apparel industry, how would you address this challenge that there is a strong resistance when adopting such technologies like AI, VR, and AR, that we might lose personal touch, like getting that feeling of touching the apparel and buying it. So how would you address this challenge, to convince people that this might replace personal touch, but it is bringing more of a personalization than you can ever imagine.
I love that. I feel that the personal touch comes in many ways. And, for me, I see the technology is enhancing and amplifying. I don't think we should look at it as replacing. If we're humans, we have our five senses. We want to use our five senses. And it's coming up with that balance where if we're looking at the front end silo, because we're talking about personal touch right now, and if we're looking at the front end silo, how do we use and implement these technologies without losing that emotional connection with the customer? Well, I love that you brought up storytelling. That's one aspect. So spend time as a stakeholder, if you're listening to this, invest in storytelling. Find those creators, those authentic writers or storytellers. Bring them onto your team. Have them work with your designers. Have them work with your agencies that you're bringing on, your technical agencies or your brand agencies. And because if the consumer is pulled into the story, you got them. They're not going anywhere. There's very few people that leave Nike once they start wearing Nike sneakers. They have sold a story of accomplishment, of being a part of this cool tribe, right? You're cool, you're hip, you're forward, you're fashionable, you're a champion, like all these, you could do anything, all these things, right? When you're wearing Nike. And so Nike has created a powerful story. Now, as it relates to touch, your technology can bring touch more efficiently to your audience as well. So let's just look at, I'm just going to say red, and I love texture. So what if I, as an innovator, created a tool where I can use AI to identify what are the colors my audience likes most? And what if I could deliver swatches to them every quarter that they can say, ooh, I love this swatch. They can go to the app, scan it, or tap the swatch they like. And then the next collection includes what they want in that collection. So there's not an automatic you lose touch because you're using tech. It's you're solving a problem while not cutting off that emotional connection to your customer. So understanding your customer and what they want is super, super important. And if they're scared of technology, you definitely don't want to go out and say, hey, guess what, guys, we're using AI. Woo! That's not what you're going to do. So you're going to deliver a better experience with AI in the background if it helps you do that. You're going to deliver a better experience with digital assets powered by blockchain, which you don't have to have them powered by blockchain, which most people don't know. But if it's going to deliver a better experience, and the customer doesn't need to know about the tech. When we go on Google and type in, we don't care how it works. We had no clue. Well, most people had no clue it was powered by AI. They're just like, oh, I put in some words and it gives me responses back, and so they don't care how it works. They just want that experience and they want it to be flawless. They want it to be good. And so again, it's like going back to just basic human principles. How do you create a product that's going to engage and pull them in emotionally without alienating them? And then understanding the customer's positioning, understanding how the tool is used, you can find that balance. But it doesn't mean one doesn't mean the other. And I do think that's an important thing to say because, for example, there's cashierless supermarkets that are being rolled out. And when you tell someone, guess what? When you walk into that store, there's going to be 500 cameras on you watching your every move. And there's going to be data collected. They're scanning your eyeballs. They're watching how much time you're spending in front of the product. And all of this is so you can check out faster. Okay, bye. Have fun. That's terrifying. Like, who wants any of that? Who wants any of that to check out faster? I'm just saying, right? And so I think that the engineers, they're creating these innovations because they're excited and it's making things faster and this and that. But if you miss the boat, like at the end of the day, it's still the customer that has to use these tools for it to be put into scale. Look at, we're seeing what's happening with 3D environments. They weren't adopted as quickly as some big companies putting billions of dollars. We're not going to name any names. It wasn't adopted as quickly as they were hoping because they missed the boat on understanding the customer. Why should they care? And if you're pushing the tech down their throat, they push back. So it's just understanding human behavior and then really navigating that this new path very gently in a way where they don't feel afraid and you're not taking away what makes them human from them.
I kind of want you to take the name of the company you just mentioned.
I think it starts with an M and it used to start with an F.
The reason I said this because I was going to ask you because you were part of and you were on the journey of winning that Metaverse Champion Award. So I was coming to that bit, but I am assuming that's no longer a great topic to talk about.
Well, let's get something very clear with the metaverse because people think that, the metaverse is dead because Facebook's pulled out or Disney's, canceled this or that. Again, if you understand what the metaverse is, it's not going anywhere. It's the future of the internet. We are engaging now in a 2D way and imagine engaging in a 3D way. It's just where we're moving. We move forward as human beings. We evolve and the technology is evolving. And so where most people denied the fact that we would be shopping online, as much as we are now, that we would only be going into brick and mortar stores. And I love going into a little boutique. I love that. I prefer walking into the supermarket and touching the fruit I'm going to buy. But it did not turn away technology where you can get products delivered right to your door. where you can, go online and within a half hour versus 3 hours of getting in your car, driving to the store, walking around aimlessly, trying stuff on, being upset, coming back home, you could just say, I'm just going to go online. A few clicks later, have it shipped to me. And so this is the evolution of where we're going as we engage online, as we are being educated online, as we are socializing online. It's going to be more immersive. And these technologies are going to be in our homes. Holograms are going to be in our homes. We're seeing it already. Filters, Snapchat is the most basic use case of augmented reality. Everyone, I'm sure, has tried a filter at some point in the last 4 years. That's augmented reality, and that's going to continue to evolve. We thought QR codes were going to go away. They're only being used more, right? It's just give people a reason to use them and they'll be used. But they've been around for 10, 12, 15 years. And people thought they were going to go away, but here they are. And so again, the metaverse as a term may go away, like the World Wide Web and information highway. But what it is not. It is the future of the internet. It is the future of how we're going to engage. It's more immersive than what we're doing now. That's not going anywhere. So those individuals that are building seriously for the future are still building the metaverse, and they're trying to make it better so people actually want to be in these spaces and come back to these spaces.
When I first heard about it, and I saw a couple of articles and videos about it, the movie Ready Player One came to my mind, and I was excited. Is this how it's going to be? It didn't pan out that way. But yeah, I still have that vision. That is how it should be, because that was cool.
There were some things that were cool and some things that were very scary in that movie. I'll have to say, I don't know. I walked away with a very dystopian feeling like, not so much. But I think the fact that we could portal from world to world and it be so real. We're imaginative beings, right? We're creative beings. And I think anything that allows us to expand our imagination is exciting. What I don't want, or what I hope that the technology doesn't enable escapism. So if we're just using it to escape from our physical world and the problems around us, those problems are going to still exist, just like in the movie. Putting a headset on was a way of escaping the slums. Why not use our imagination and innovation to remove the slums? So the paradise is actually what we are in and what we wake up to every day, as opposed to the slums and you just put on a headset. And so for me, I hope for a more utopian ending or a utopian situation with the metaverse and all these technologies. That's why I'm here and still in it, because I see a better future, a more positive future, a more mindful future due to these technologies.
Yeah, I do have another movie reference which exactly communicates this, and I think that's the only movie on sci-fi which has a happy ending. Tomorrowland. I haven't seen any other movie which feels me better about all the tech.
So you know what you just said? You just put a call out there to all the movie writers and filmmakers out there. We need more utopian endings to sci-fi, please.
It's the only movie which makes you feel that the future will fix itself. There would be people who would work to fix itself and fix the whole globe, all the problems, and it won't be an ending like Terminator where the AI is going to take over. I haven't seen any other TV series or movie give me that kind of hope. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen anything else.
And it starts with that, right? It starts with our intention. And so if we are building with an intention for a more positive future, we're going to have a more positive future. And so, yes, I think we are coming to a fork in the road where we've seen how quickly machine learning is learning. We're like, oh, wow, whoa. And we see, individuals saying, slow down. Again, if we're creating a product, a solution with the intention for human first innovations and humanity first solutions, and we create these rails around it where it drives that's what we're going to get as the outcome. But if we just create it and throw it out there and say, oh, here's this new thing, we give a hammer to a bunch of babies and we don't tell them how to use it, and someone has a knot in their head and someone broke the window and, you just laid the hammer out without any guidance at all, it's going to be pretty dangerous, right? But we know hammers also can build beautiful things. So I feel that these are tools that we as the creators need to, with intention, use them and protect ourselves in a way where it only goes towards good. Because yes, we could see the outcome easily turning to a Terminator, but that's not why we're here. And that's not why we're building. Because if that was the case, we'd be like, forget this. Everyone start farming. Farming, quilting, like like way back, old school,
Yeah.
right?
Back to survival skills.
It should happen well before people start replacing sci-fi with horror movies.
Right. So I feel that the more we can get out there for a call to this intention, we're building with ethics, we're building with sustainability, we're building with mindfulness. Let's start there. And then the solutions we create are for that. I think we have been living in a paradigm where it was profit. How quickly can you build it? How quickly can you sell it at whatever cost necessary? And we see the fallout. We see the issues with stress and mental health and suicides. And people want to kind of push those numbers under the rug until it hits home. If you just look at the stats, it's really scary. And so if we have a new set of tools, why wouldn't we create something better? Why would we repeat something that's only more or create something that's more harmful? So yeah, let's all aim for Tomorrowland. Let's all aim for a better future and a better outcome.
Agreed. So I have two more questions before we, call it a day. And I know because you have to, while the day is ending at our end, you definitely have a lot to, whole day to look at. So one is you briefly spoke about a couple of customer facing technologies, like a virtual fitting or, suggesting the right kind of product recommendations. Any simple or any relevant customer experience technologies or tools or maybe use cases which you have seen have a huge relevance for any apparel industry, for that matter, anybody?
Yeah, we're going to see a huge change in how we shop in brick and mortar. And this is an exciting time for brick and mortar companies and stores, because they're now, I think the consumer was neglected, and we saw the rise of e-commerce, and the store owner was like, oh, we just have to create a box and put some racks out there and they will come. And now that we're seeing that individuals will choose convenience over that in-person experience. So now we're going to have increased experiences. We're going to see more augmented reality in physical environments. We're going to see more storytelling and engaging content when we're in these physical spaces. We're going to, as you said, have a better experience where we say, like for me, I've always had issues when I try things on that they don't fit. And then what happens, it affects my psyche, right? I start feeling bad about myself. So if you can create a better experience in store for your customer, make it easier for them to try things on, make them feel more positive about themselves when they're in the store, when they leave that fitting room, you're going to have them come back, have them actually have an experience. What if they came in and your store was about, I don't know, you sold mountain gear, and you come in and there's this backdrop where like on Unreal Engine where you feel like you're literally on the mountain top, right? Maybe there's a breeze going by, maybe there's a scent, being, Disney has owned this experience, in terms of experiences. But I think we're going to see retailers really being empowered with these tools now that's in their hands to be able to enhance those experiences. We're going to see more personalized shopping as well, using the computer vision technology, the eye scanning technology. So that's on the brick and mortar side. On the product delivery side, we're going to see more on-demand production. So we're going to be introduced to more virtual and 3D products, and we're going to indicate which of these are our favorites. And then that's what's going to be produced and then sent to us. We're also going to see more participation of the community in creating the final product, where brands are going to allow the community to design with the brands. And then now you have a say and input in terms of the product that's coming to you and at your doorstep. And I think you're going to see a whole new emergence of collectibles. I grew up collecting cards and coins and marbles, and we're going to see digital collectibles rise in terms of, well, what did you collect? What did you collect? We saw it a little bit on the art side, in the last couple of years with NFTs. That terminology is probably going to go away outside of that art scene. And we're going to just again, lowering the playing field where we're all speaking the same language. Did you collect that digital baseball card, that digital, toy or whatever? And let me see what's in your wallet. Let me see what's in your wallet, in terms of your collectibles or whatever we end up calling it. I think we're going to see more of that as well. So those are some thoughts, and beyond the conversation around sustainability that's going to continue to rise, and more solutions are going to continue to be put in place. I also think we're going to slow down a bit. It's going to be slow is the new black, right? Where people are going to be excited that there was time and energy put into this, and they're going to covet that product more, where it's not one of millions, it's maybe just one of 100 or one of 1,000. So exclusive collections, limited editions, and slow fashion is going to come back into trend.
Yeah, those are some amazing insights, Noah. And it triggered a brilliant thought, maybe for our next session, where you combine technology with storytelling to bring out that brand experience. And everything that you just said, and at least that's my first impression, the NFTs or that consumer experience, it is the technology coming together with the brand and telling a story to you. And that could be unique for each store, for each brand. Like you just said, Disney, it's magical.
Yes.
Everybody would have their own trademark style of bringing that experience. Some might want to go noir, some might want to just be very funky, some might want to go retro to the 80s. And it would be amazing to bring in that era. If you really like the 80s, it's like Guardians of the Galaxy all the way down. You can't remove that music out of your mind.
Right. Absolutely.
So one last one before we call it a day. So what advice would you give to all the apparel companies out there, considering the adoption of AI or blockchain or all the technologies that are out there?
I would say, don't be afraid. Don't be a copycat, and don't wait to react. Be proactive. Educate yourself and your team. Find a champion in-house. There are plenty of people on the team that's interested in these technologies that are probably already educating themselves. You may find someone who's interested in taking the lead, or several people interested in taking the lead on bringing that information into the organization in a way where they can make informed decisions. I also encourage having someone that's looking at ethics. There's technologies that, for example, if we go back to the retail store, where based on how long you're standing in a location, based on what you're wearing, you may be targeted as someone that might want to steal something from that store. Well, that might be completely false based on whatever data they're using, and it may be an invasion of privacy. And so when you're thinking of how could you tell based on what someone's wearing that they're going to steal, that's a bias that you're building into the algorithm of the AI. And so I think it's going to take more than just engineers that's creating the solutions. We need to have ethics at the forefront in every organization that's using these tools. How do we continue to protect our customers' privacy and data as we're collecting it, and safety as well? How do we protect their mental health? How do we protect the mental health of our team members? And so these are the things that I would like more stakeholders to discuss and keep at the forefront as they continue to adopt the technologies within their infrastructure. So I would say educate yourself. Don't make a decision based out of fear. Have a trusted advisor or agency or consultant on your team to help guide you to those next steps of ideation. And then appoint individuals in your company as those champions for the technology, and always have someone that keeps ethics in mind as you're integrating the technology into your infrastructure.
Great advice, Nova. And a final one, if you could just talk about what you do. For example, if anybody who's listening to this podcast or would watch all those videos if they want to reach out to you for any of the apparel industry help? How would you introduce yourself, about what you do, and what kind of services and help you would provide them with? So a quick intro from you.
Yes, from me, you could find me at LinkedIn, Nova Lorraine, and that's Nova Nova Lorraine Lorraine. That's the DM box that I check the most, so you can reach me on LinkedIn directly, DM me. And in terms of what I do, I advise and consult in the space. So I'm a member of several advisory boards. I also am brought on to consult on product launches, on story development, on branding. And so that's an area that I can assist with. Strategy as well. You know, how do you create a sustainable plan so you're able to weather the storm in this very tumultuous time as we adopt these technologies? And so that's something that I enjoy doing. And I'm a storyteller. So if you need great stories, I'm here. And then if you're looking for a designer to collaborate with, I love collaborating with my fashion and my art. And so if you're looking at a way to amplify or distinguish yourself with art, with fashion, then keep Nova Lorraine in mind.
That was a great end. Thank you, Nova. Thank you for spending the time with us today. And it was a great session. And we definitely, like I said, I would definitely like to have a chat with you again about tech and storytelling, for a great brand experience in the next session, definitely.
Absolutely. And then by then I'll have more names I could drop for you. I could tell you the the name of the show, then the name of the book and the workshops, and it's all coming, but by the time we talk again, it'll all be out there. So
we'll have a lot to talk about.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So we would like to end with with a big thank you for giving us a wealth of knowledge that can help us, our counterparts, our clients, and our potential clients to make some decisions with conviction. And a huge thank you to you to when everyone is writing off storytellers that ChatGPT is going to replace them, you kept them alive with your ideas that no, they will be relevant forever. And yeah, a big thank you for that as well. And I hope when we will be keep chatting until we see ourselves in meta calls rather than video calls.
Yes, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.